When I first saw this painting, I knew I was looking at something special. There's something about this scene that simply draws you in. It's clearly a nativity scene, but it instantly conveys a feeling that we simply can't define until we look a bit closer. Mary gently prays for her newly born son, Jesus Christ, whose naked body is pure. More importantly, the baby emits light as he lies outstretched in the manger. This instantly caught my attention. Why did the painter choose such an unusual source of light? Right behind Mary, you can see Joseph, who is equally amazed by the sight of such radiating rays of light that emanate from the child's body. He looks in bewilderment, holding his right hand to his heart, clearly acknowledging that he is witnessing something that is out of this world. On the left side of the painting, 5 angels witness the scene as well. 3 of them appear to be praying, and all of them look on in a state of pure amazement. It's hard to see in the darkness, but just above the manger, the huge heads of the ox and the donkey appear. Even they seem to be stunned by what they see. Outside of the dilapidated stable, another remarkable scene takes place that involves 2 additional sources of light, a fire and an angel in the sky. Why did the painter create such an unusual composition? Let's take a closer look so we can understand what the painter did here. This work was painted in the late 15th century by a mysterious artist who didn't live past the age of 30. He left behind just over a dozen paintings. To add to this mystery, he was only mentioned a couple of times in historical records. This leaves several elements of his life up for assumption. This painting is titled The Nativity at Night, and it was completed around 1490 by an Early Netherlandish painter known as Geertgen tot Sint Jans. He lived and worked in Haarlem, a city just next to Amsterdam in the Low Countries, which were then part of the Holy Roman Empire. Like most painters of his time, he used oil on wooden panels to complete his works. This allowed him to build up multiple layers of paint to depict detailed scenes such as this one. He was only mentioned once extensively, and that was in the Schildersboek or Painter's Book, written by Karel van Mander in the early 17th century. It's easy to understand that we might have to take some elements in this book with a grain of salt, considering Geertgen had passed away well over a century before this book was published. He might have been a pupil of Albert van Ouwater, another early Netherlandish painter active in Haarlem during the 15th century. Regardless of his training, this painting emphasizes that he was a true master and he created something extraordinary. When I say chiaroscuro, the first thing that comes to our mind is Caravaggio, right? Geertgen tot Sint Jans perfected this technique of light and shadow over a century before Caravaggio rose to fame during the Baroque era. Just look at how the light that emanates from the baby Jesus reflects on the face of his mother, Mary. It's sheer perfection. Although Geertgen probably lived in Haarlem, it's possible that he wasn't born there though. A print dating back to 1620, published by Jacob Matam, refers to him as Gerardus von Leidanus, which might mean that he was born in Leiden. This print was made from his painting titled The Lamentation of Christ, a work completed during the final years of the 1480s, which explains why he was mentioned there. What's pretty certain is that Albrecht Dürer, who was, in my opinion, one of the most talented artists in history, had good things to say about him. According to Karel van Mander, Dürer once said that he must have been a painter inside his mother's womb. I think this painting clearly highlights the incredible amount of talent he was blessed with, as he managed to elevate this common scene to something truly divine. Some art historians have referred to the Nativity at Night as being the first nocturnal scene in art history. Granted, this might be a bit too much, but it emphasizes that this was no ordinary painting during the late 15th century. So where did Geertgen tot Sint Jans get his inspiration to paint Christ as the main source of light in this painting? The story goes back to an event that happened a century before Geertgen picked up his brushes. A popular medieval saint known as Bridget of Sweden presumably had a vision in which she saw the birth of Jesus Christ. During this vision, she saw that Mary didn't suffer at all. She also saw that the child started emitting such rays of light that the sun couldn't even compare to it. This explains this scene, which illuminates the interior of the stable. Outside, however, something else is going on. The shepherds have to shield their eyes to cope with a similar source of light, albeit not as strong as the one inside. There, we can see another common biblical story, the Annunciation of the Shepherds. According to the story in the Gospel of Luke, multiple angels appeared before a group of shepherds to announce the coming of Christ. It was a common subject in art throughout the Renaissance and Baroque periods. Geertgen's version depicts a single angel on a hill not too far from the stable. Before I continue, I have to give credit where credit is due. Nobody doubts the quality and inventiveness of Geertgen's technique, but he wasn't the one who came up with the composition. He was inspired by a work from another popular Flemish painter at the time, Hugo van der Goes. I will have to make a video about one of his paintings soon as well, because he was truly brilliant. His version was completed in 1470, but has unfortunately been lost to history. The closest replica is believed to be Michael Citto's version, completed a couple of decades after Geertgen's. What fascinates me is that Geertgen made significant changes to the original composition. He reversed the direction of Mary and the angels, while keeping the direction of the building and the scene outside the same. There were also angels floating above the manger, but these aren't present in Geertgen's version. As we can see, this makes the scene more intimate. We simply have to admit that there's something special about Geertgen's painting, a feeling that other versions of the same work don't convey. Was it his use of chiaroscuro, executed to perfection, that makes this scene so touching? Or is it the look on Mary's, Joseph's, and the angels' faces? The longer you stare at it, the more powerful this feeling becomes. You can't put it into words, and that was the point. This painting is barely the size of a sheet of paper and was certainly commissioned for personal devotion, not for public display. Whoever brought it with him would have often looked at it by candlelight. This further enhanced the fact that Jesus is the main source of light. When we look a bit closer at Jesus, it appears that he's rather small. This wasn't a mistake, but it served a specific purpose. While other paintings of the Nativity often depicted Jesus as oversized, Geertgen specifically painted him smaller than a real newborn baby. There's a reason for it though, and it had to do with the mentality of the people in the place he lived. In the northern part of the Low Countries, people were extremely humble when it came to religious devotion. In that sense, the artist painted the child as vulnerable, encouraging people to reflect on their own vulnerability. What strikes me the most about this notion is that he didn't have to paint the divine as grandiose. He didn't have to include any bells and whistles. He kept it as sober as possible. He knew that he could bring his message across by something else, his immense painting talent. You simply have to stand in awe of the fact that this painter, probably in his mid-20s at the time, managed to create such a moving image because of how he painted it. The way he illuminates the faces and clothes of Mary and the angels in this shabby stable was well ahead of his time. I already mentioned Caravaggio, the man who took chiaroscuro to another level, but this work also reminds me of the paintings of Rembrandt, more specifically how he used light to convey emotions. Finally, there are two more things that you need to know about the Nativity at Night by Geertgen tot Sint Jans. First of all, nothing is known about the painting before it was sold at an auction in Paris in the year 1900, except that it had been cut down on all four sides. We don't know why this happened, but it's pretty certain that no crucial elements were lost. A copy that resides at a museum in Barcelona seems to confirm this. What's more important is that it was damaged by a fire in 1904. This happened in Berlin, when the original resided in a private collection in Germany. This made the painting darker than it was originally. This is best reflected in the blue clothes worn by Mary and the sky outside, which is even darker than it was before. As we can see, this damage actually further enhanced the effect of the newborn baby Jesus being the main source of light. During a short stay in the Netherlands between 1917 and 1921, it was praised as one of the greatest late medieval paintings ever created. This praise was mainly because it was such an original work at the time. Geertgen tot Sint Jans created an image of humble yet divine perfection, unlike anything the world had ever seen in the 1490s. This small painting was sold for the whopping amount of 80,000 guilders in 1921, the equivalent of over 3.2 million euros or $3.7 million today. It was eventually acquired by the National Gallery in London in 1925, and it still resides in this museum today. So what do you feel when you look at the Nativity at night? Do you think it's one of the most powerful depictions of the subject you have ever seen? Are you impressed by the fascinating use of light, which was only perfected a century later by Caravaggio? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.